April 18, 2022. A rewrite of my citing with background information. Written Sept. 4th, 2025. At 8:07 p.m. Note: critical thinkers. In other words, you must be vigilant about the sources of information you use and analytically critical of the interpretations you give your experiences. Experience may be the best teacher. But you must not think of your experience as sacred in any way. Instead, consider it one important dimension of thought that, like all other dimensions, must be critically analyzed and assessed. Failure to do so can lead to bias and self-delusion.
Malaka is an act of manifesting man's dominion over nature. Orb.
Cavid glory is a powerful object and is used as a weapon sometimes. Orb. In March 2022, my brother Alex sent me a text message that included a podcast post. This was the first time I saw a post by Mr. Bledsoe. I watched the podcast and was amazed when I heard about the being and the triangle on their chest. I was triggered, and before the podcast ended, I sent him a message with photos of the triangle and its various meanings. At that time, I was driving on the QEW, moving west toward home. I explained that I had seen them too, and shared how I was given a triangle during a violent and frightening encounter I had. I think this was the moment he didn't believe me. I began rewatching the sky daily, asking them for more proof, so he could see that I wasn't lying and possibly make a friend out of this experience. The truth is, I don't want their attention, nor do I think it would be beneficial for me. I'm just a guy who works and has a couple of hobbies, so there's nothing any of them could offer me. I began to feel more energized throughout these weeks. From 2019 to 2022, I have been against the pandemic narrative. I actively shared information with anyone I could, often ending up being booed or yelled at. I even had to leave a dock where I kept my boat due to these disagreements. In response to the question in the MUFON questionnaire about whether I have a mission or passion against stopping certain environmental outcomes, I said yes. But what I mean is, yes, I am against the Human Development Report, fish farms, fake meats, battery plants on the Great Lakes, and the disinformation out there. People believe it, and it's crazy. Now that I've given you thousands of pages to read to understand what I'm saying, enjoy, and I'm sorry. Next, I will provide a list of people they don't want you to know about. Google number, US 7220852B1. Pay attention to the dates and names. This is just one group that worked on it, and in no way do I think they were the only 20 or so individuals involved. There were likely many others in the mix. The rest of the supporting information can be found in the articles from the U.S. Justice Department, somewhere around January 2019. I have it somewhere, but I doubt you'll make it that far. And if you do, it will take a while to digest. That's a lot of information. It's almost twilight now as I write this, so I will take a break. I use twilight as a time to see beings from higher realms, or if you prefer, nature spirits. While I'm at it, maybe I will start with a list of known terms and names they are recognized by. After that, I will begin where people should start to understand this puzzle, then I will recount my experiences. With this approach, I should be able to stay on topic and not mix my other encounters into this one, as I often find it hard to do so. They naturally blend together in my mind like a category. I apologize for venting all of this, but I feel the need to put a record in order for others to understand. Unlike other experiencers, I am doing my best to present all the evidence I have in a clear enough order for myself to analyze later for anything I may have missed or overlooked. In fact, having these notes is already paying off for those reasons. I can work on my experience without the need for third-party interpreters. As time went on and April came around, despite hearing Mr. B's story, I had never had an experience tied to a specific date, especially one that matched someone else's. However, I always eat lamb. I wasn't aware of the ritual significance at the time. On that day, I prepared the lamb on the barbecue fire until it was almost burnt to ensure there was no blood. I only added olive oil because that's how I like it. On the side, I think I had some broccoli, which I didn't eat much of. I went inside, and at that time, I was looking through books for old clues or past terms so I could better see the whole picture. I also believe the facts and history are meant for all men/womankind, and try to collect these small pieces in terms of terminology or similarities in the story or narrative and compare them. I have found it's often the same or similar species being mentioned. That night, the last piece I worked on in my textbook was the name of Yahweh, which I found was written Yabovah, and I also read it meant the name which shakes and moves the heavens. Now you can believe whatever you want, but I will openly tell you this: I identify as a confused Catholic who sees the deception for what it is. Let's briefly touch on my personal opinion regarding these topics. I know they are real. I believe that the myths are more fact than fiction, and I know that the home team was here before and has returned again. I may be biased in my beliefs, which is fine as long as I make that clear. Why is the name separated into 3 parts? It is for the same reasons of reference and symbolism that most people can imagine. If you filled in the blank, great job. If that sounds odd to you, no worries, it will come to you eventually. When the name is verbally spoken, it is also a sign of respect to split it into 3 parts. Sometime before the encounter, I sent Mr. B a note with a Bible clipping from Acts 10, which recounts the moment when a centurion sends for Peter. He said thank you but no longer responds if I message him, and despite me telling him my story, he has never mentioned anything about it other than his son, who claims the great sign of a dragon or serpent and a woman in the sky will back them up. Well, that's me over here being, not just shadow banned, I'm being algorithmically waterboarded. They didn't just throttle my bandwidth, they enhanced and interrogated my IP. They got me in a virtual black site. No reach, no repost, just pure algorithmic isolation. Additionally, it's important to readjust some terms in the Bible. For example, Gentile is a name, not just a term for a non-Jew, as evidenced in Romans. He will be the first and the last. As a kid, I often wondered how many people could feel this, and I talked about it frequently, just like I do now. Some things don't change. In grade 9, I was asked not to speak in religion class because I kept adding my own opinions and interpretations. But that's enough about that time. There is a further recap below diving a bit deeper. I was going to place it here, but while there's some more background information and information I came across along the way, so let's continue. Angels. The term angel, which is derived from the Greek word angelos, is the equivalent of the Hebrew word malach, meaning messenger. We should not test Christ as some of them did, and were killed by snakes. That Hebrew word, moffjpvfm or seraph, 1429 and 30:6. The polal indicates an intensive of the root pvf, of that means to fly or flutter. Not being killed is a good sign, haha.
John 3. Jesus teaches Nicodemus. 5 Jesus answered, Very truly I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom of God unless they are born of water and the Spirit. 6 Flesh gives birth to flesh, but the Spirit, gives birth to spirit. 7 You should not be surprised at my saying, You must be born again. 8 The wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit.
10 Jesus answered and said unto him, Art thou a master of Israel, and knowest not these things? 11 Verily, verily, I say unto thee, we speak that we do know, and testify that we have seen, and ye receive not our witness. 12 If I have told you earthly things, and ye believe not, how shall ye believe, if I tell you of heavenly things? 13 And no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man which is in heaven. 14 And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. 15 That whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have eternal life. The belief that they are a tether between dual ideals also emphasizes the dual worlds of Greece, which was sloughed off as an old skin, and the new, complex Rome, which is strong and, like the serpent, Cadmus luckily hurls a spear that impales the beast into a tree, but this creature is respected and feared by the gods themselves, and immediately they grow indignant of Cadmus' treatment of such a holy being. It is seen in their response that serpents command respect from the divine, and it is later seen that they rival gods in strength, as is seen in Apollo's battle with Python, 1.5760. After the battle, Pallas even descends upon Cadmus and commands him to sow the serpent's teeth, which births a virile race of armed warriors, 3.98 to 130. Pallas' instructions and the birth of the soldiers, juxtaposed with the grotesque creature's description, begins to develop the complexity of the narrative of Cadmus. Center for all human experiences and a bridge between the earthly and the divine. This epic anthology defines Rome, and how its people view the noble history of their Greek spiritual ancestor. 1 Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ. To God's elect, exiles scattered throughout the provinces of Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia and Bithynia, to who have been chosen according to the foreknowledge of God the Father, through the sanctifying work of the Spirit, to be obedient to Jesus Christ and sprinkled with his blood. The eye of Ra is a part of the sun god Ra. It is literally his eye and was known as the right Wedjat eye, but it functioned as a separate deity with its own powers and abilities. The eye of Ra was usually a female goddess and acted as a counterpart to the male god. This goes back to the tradition of dualism that encapsulated the ideology of ancient Egypt. Urius, the Greek word, is an important symbol associated with the gods, goddesses, and pharaohs of ancient Egypt. Discover the history, mythology, and beliefs surrounding the uraeus, the rearing cobra symbol of ancient Egypt. The cobra represents the goddess Wadjet, a very ancient goddess who is associated with royalty. The uraeus cobra symbol was a fetish, an object that was believed to embody magical powers and offer magical protection. According to legend, the cobra was given to the pharaohs as a sign of kingship by the god Geb. The uraeus is a symbol for the goddess Wadjet. The uraeus is often depicted alongside Nekhbet, the protective goddess of Upper Egypt, the southern half of Egypt. With the two protectors or two ladies on his royal crowns, a pharaoh proves that he is the ruler of both Upper and Lower Egypt, i.e., the ruler of unified ancient Egypt. Hathor, goddess of love, protector of women. Worshipped at Dendere, Upper Egypt. Animal, cow. Early identified with Isis. Serpent by having it suffer hatred and disrespect while on earth, but affording it a divine respect as a redeemer of humanity. The eye symbol was also a hieroglyph, which Egyptologists believed represented serpent by having it suffer hatred and disrespect while on earth, but affording it a divine respect as a redeemer of humanity. The eye symbol was also a hieroglyph, which Egyptologists believed represented fractions in ancient Egyptian math. The eye of Ra/Re was a significant figure in ancient Egyptian mythology which serves as a counterpart to the sun god Ra and embodies both feminine and violent attributes. It's an extension of Ra's power, often behaving as an independent goddess, and can be associated with various deities like Hathor, Sekhmet, and Bastet. The eye goddess has roles as Ra's partner, mother, sibling, consort, and daughter. This partnership is integral to the creative cycle where Ra begets his renewed form at dawn. The eye goddess fiercely defends Ra against disorderly forces, often depicted as a lioness or uraeus symbol. Similar to the eye of Horus, the eye of Ra represents overlapping concepts. The goddess's destructive aspects, her fury, and the god's attempts to appease her form a recurring theme in Egyptian mythology. The eye of Ra's influence spans multiple areas of Egyptian religion, from its connection to various goddesses to its life-giving and protective roles in temple rituals and safeguarding the pharaoh, sacred sites, and ordinary people's homes. In ancient Egyptian beliefs, the sun and moon were often referred to as the eyes of specific gods. The serpent Mehen is depicted as coiling around the sun god Ra's solar bark, protecting him as he journeys through the underworld. Some depictions of Mehen involve cosmic or otherworldly flight. Ba in ancient Egyptian religion, with the Ka and the Ak, a principal aspect of the soul, the Ba appears in bird form, thus expressing the mobility of the soul. After death. Originally written with the sign of the Jabru bird and thought to be an attribute of only the god king, the Ba was later represented by a man-headed hawk, often depicted hovering over the mummies of kings and commoners alike. Ak in Egyptian religion, the spirit of a deceased person, and with the Ka and the Ba, a principal aspect of the soul. By enabling the soul to assume temporarily any form it desired for the purpose of revisiting the earth, or for its own enjoyment, the Ak characterized the soul of a deceased person as an effective entity in the next world. Isaiah 30 verse 6. The burden against the beasts of the south. Through a land of trouble and anguish, from which came the lioness and lion, the viper and fiery flying serpent, they will carry their riches on the backs of young donkeys, and their treasures on the humps of camels, to a people who shall not profit. The relevant Greek words used by Josephus in this narrative are rho pi epsilon tau nu, or erpiton, which means reptile, and phi epsilon omega nu, or ophis, which means snakes. The same general Greek word was employed by Herodotus and Jesus Christ in John 3. And the exact form was used by Paul in 1 Corinthians 10 verse 9 to describe the attacking serpents in the wilderness. It is also the same as the Septuagint version of the wilderness account, ophis or ophisai in its masculine, dative plural form. Since this is the common Greek word for snakes, perhaps there was no unique Greek word for pterosaur like the Hebrew seraph. Instead, the Greek authors fell back on the phrase flying serpent as the way to distinguish the winged reptilian creature, just like the KJV translators did in English. In Greek mythology, Medea, Medai, Ancient Greek, mu delta epsilon iota alpha, Romanized, Medea, lit. Is the daughter of King Aeetes of Colchis. In the myth of Jason and the Argonauts, she helps Jason in his quest for the Golden Fleece. Medea later marries him, but in some versions of her story, she kills their children and his other bride. Medea is widely known as a sorceress, and is frequently depicted as a priestess of the goddess Hecate. She first appears in Hesiod's Theogony around 700 BCE, too, but is most famous from Euripides's tragedy Medea, and Apollonius of Rhodes's epic Argonautica.
So these concepts such as I have encountered in today's timeline are here as shown above in just a few examples. If I were to go on about this, it will be a lot longer and more in depth, but I am currently collecting all of that to be compared and double-check in, then adjusted. So this is what I've gathered from your history books, religious texts, and stone walls from around the world.
Term Shem-Haim-Farash, which is the name of the ranking system used in the heavens. Ecstasis, Greek term which means to stand outside or transcend oneself. Unmitigated by thought, word, or reflection, simply put, union with the One. The term for a direct experience with God, like the encounters we are tracking, tracing and facing. The term entoptic from Greece, it describes a phenomena that is experienced as a visual in the mind but not seen with the use of the eyes. Ruach, translation meaning spirit. Hebrew. Spirit, Oklahest. Sakanat, the divine presence. The Shekinah, meaning which see. Sakti, the female energy of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. Sephora, the name of the wife to Moses. Sit lux et lux fiut, let there be light. Soli sanctissimo sacrum, sacred to the most holy Son. Stellato sedet solo, he sits alone on his starry throne. Adagiber lolam Adonai. Stellato sedet solo, he sits alone on his starry throne. Adagiber. Starry throne. Adagiber lolam Adonai, thou art mighty forever, O Lord. En Sof, the phrase means intellectual light. Galzu hybrid sometimes visits in visions normally to cause change or order commands. Rabboni translates to master. Kavod, glory, is a powerful object and is used as a weapon sometimes. Theoi, gods. Keruvim, the act of covering. Michael, first commander. Theos, god. Deos, mainly female gods. In older times, as I should have started, you find examples like, as every Mesopotamian city was the seat and dominion of a single divinity in the pantheon, all the cities together were a reflected image of the starry sky on the earth's surface.
15.
The Mesopotamian city, represented by its king, who was the only intermediary between ordinary humans and the gods, had a constructed, divine task, to unite all other cities under one rule and copy the heavenly pantheon on earth. The first king to accomplish such a tremendous task was Sargon of Akkad, which is the same as God's original plan in the Bible, which, in theory, is a reboot. I.e. Enkidu could take form like the others, as described in the translation found in the British Museum by Mr. Irving Finkel. I enjoy his lectures, they can sometimes be found for free. Anyways, in the book The First Ghost we can all see the term for something some have seen in person. The beings taking form. The word for this description is itaku. And in the Epic of Gilgamesh, he was able to take partial And in the Epic of Gilgamesh, he was able to take partial form. Insulting, he was DOA. He was DOA, which term they use, and can be found Zakik. Some may have felt or heard of the gust of wind. That sometimes comes with an experience or encounter that is found as the term SISIIG. Back to examples I have found in relation to my encounter and experience. I didn't think this is a easy code, but with so many other examples in history it is hard to interrupt other meanings that could be happening from this encounter. Interpret other meanings that could be happening from this encounter. Hindu mysticism. Sarasvati, goddess of wisdom, is often linked to serpentine energy, fluid, intuitive, and subversive to rigid authority. Mesoamerican myth. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, is a creator god tied to wind, rain, and knowledge. Often paired with feminine deities, this serpent is a bridge between worlds. Those who dream of serpents in these cultures are seen as chosen, often destined to become shamans or guardians of sacred knowledge. Woman mage. Western esotericism. Sophia in Gnostic lore is divine wisdom, often depicted as descending into chaos to awaken humanity. The serpent is her companion, not her enemy. Norse mythology. While not a direct example of a flying serpent, Jormungandr, the world serpent, is a central figure. It's said to encircle the world and play a role in the apocalyptic events of Ragnarok, symbolizing chaos and the cyclical nature of life. Chinese mythology. Dragons in Chinese tradition are sometimes depicted as serpent-like creatures with the ability to fly. They are symbols of strength, prosperity, and good fortune, often associated with the heavens and imperial authority. The dragon is a symbol of cosmic power, often paired with the phoenix, female energy. Together they represent balance and transformation. Indigenous Australian stories. The rainbow serpent, found in Aboriginal mythology, is a powerful creation spirit. Although typically linked to rivers and rain, some traditions describe its celestial and transformative aspects. Lilith, often demonized, is actually a symbol of uncompromising feminine power, serpentine, sexual, and sovereign. Warnings. The parable of the wandering sheep. 10. See that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven.
11.
This includes but is not limited to hellfire missiles and captives. Recap and hidden details of the time leading up to my encounter. This event is taking place during the lockdown, along with other acts of violent, forced change. I am currently, and have always been, against this event. You may think, so what? Many feel the same way. To those people, I say, great job. Keep being free and keep being yourselves. However, for me, this is a significant event, one I've opposed since I was around 12 years old. It's hard to remember specifics, but I knew this was coming and positioned myself to navigate through it as best as I could. Why didn't you say anything? I did. Since I was a kid. Do you think anyone listened to me? Most people just thought I was crazy. No one took my concerns seriously. I based many of my thoughts on the potential consequences of the world taking this path. I guess we will all find out. There is still a lot of rapid change ahead, but for the most part, it's preconditioning, aimed at unifying the world, which would be great. My concern lies with ownership and what it means. This is what they call stewardship. This issue is ongoing and factual. It's outlined in the Human Development Report. You will need to find both older and newer copies to read each one, as they are over 500 pages long, and include pictures and graphs for those who don't enjoy reading. For the most part, these reports are based on good intentions, and many recommendations should be adopted. However, once stewardship is established, how will it be governed? What kind of lifestyle will be provided to the public? Will it be one of balance and enjoyment, or will it be dominated by long hours in factories with smog and traffic? Currently, I think we already know the answer to that. These are the types of programs and ideas I oppose, and I hope for a future filled with balance and enjoyment. The weeks leading up to my encounter were, for the most part, typical of my daily routine. Some of what I am writing here now, and may share later in its full form, may not be provable except for the fact that one other person has mentioned this experience, and he knows it to be factual. But we'll get there. One day, my brother sent me a text message, as he usually does when we come across information related to others or topics of interest. That day, he sent me a link to one of Mr. Bledsoe's podcasts, where they discussed their experiences. This intrigued me, but my interest had a more literal purpose. Now, you might want some background on me or wonder who I am, or why you should believe or even listen to me. For that, I won't provide you with any credentials. Instead, I ask you to assume your worst thoughts and apply those attributes to my character. In all fairness, we would then be starting from the same place. Clearly, those older versions of myself are ones I have outgrown and honestly find disgusting, but I have learned to study those thoughts and continue to do so with all my thoughts and their processes. They were all paths that led me to this point. Now that we've addressed that, I will return to the background leading up to my encounter. When I received the text message and watched the clip, I was struck by some of the comments he made, especially when they mentioned the small being with a triangle on its chest. I immediately got excited and began looking him up. I don't think I even finished the whole video before I started sending him pages I had stored on my phone regarding the triangle and its meaning, along with a brief explanation of how I had also encountered these beings. I didn't expect him to fully understand, but I felt he would recognize that I was referring to the same beings, and that we could chat about it. I must have overwhelmed him with information without specifying each meaning. As more time went by, I wanted to prove to him that I was talking about the same beings, so I decided to open up about my own thought process and understanding of these experiences, which may seem far-fetched to most. Over the next few days, I watched a couple more clips, and I really wish I had kept track of them, but at the time, I didn't think it would be necessary later on. I assumed that once I proved my point, I would have made a new friend. Unfortunately, that was far from the case. I must also admit that I will not disclose certain topics or make any assumptions about their relation. I have no friends in the way he does, either officially or unofficially, it's just me and my experiences. I began filming the orbs flying around high in the sky with my cell phone. I tried to share this as proof, but instead, it seemed to have the opposite effect, making it look like I was just seeking attention. This left me questioning why I wasn't believed. I felt disturbed and upset by these thoughts. I decided to refocus on my historical research into spiritual beings and esoteric matters. My aim was to differentiate between secrets and fairy tales, seeking the common morals or lessons behind these events and encounters. However, I realized that I had one significant piece of information incorrect. I had kept my beliefs separate from one another. I believed in God and knew this to be true, but I also believed in aliens and accepted their existence as well. Until I spoke with Mr. Bledsoe, I had never considered that they could exist in the same realm in my mind. The last paper I wrote before my encounter was about the description and pronunciation of Yahweh, which I believed should be pronounced as Yahweh. After that, I went out back as I often did on most nights. I never followed a specific schedule or watched for certain dates. I simply responded to events as they occurred. I was outside from April 17, 2022, until April 18, 2022. I'm not sure if there was a time gap, but if there was, how does that happen? I was lying in a hammock, so I wonder what might have occurred if there was missing time. What information is missing, if any? I assume the sighting is the entire event, but I want to examine everything I can recall. I remember that I ate lamb that evening, cooked only with olive oil and slightly burnt so there was no blood. I believe I had asparagus with that meal. Afterward, I went inside, did some homework, played a game, and then watched a show before heading out to the backyard. While I was outside, I was asking with that meal. Afterward, I went inside, did some homework, played a game, and then watched a show before heading out to the backyard. While I was outside, I was asking for more proof and thinking about how people don't believe me, so I would need something bigger than what I had experienced. Not long after, I heard a bang coming from the front of the house. For some reason, I remained relaxed in my position and didn't feel the need to move or get concerned. Then, two orbs, either pinkish red or orangish red, it's hard to say, appeared and took form, transforming into two beings. I don't recall the full transition, my eyes might not have been capable of perceiving it, but my mind was trying to process it. There was a kind of glitch from the orbs to their full forms. When we made eye contact, it felt like an eternity. The event may have lasted only seconds in reality, but it seemed like it was in slow motion. The female being looked at me with eyes that were 3 times the size of ours, big brown eyes. Beside her was a dragon or serpent, which I now refer to as a serpent after learning about different species. This being is translated to seraphim, and cherub refers to the smaller ones that are formed like humans. There is a difference, hence the different terminology. The serpent and I made eye contact as well. He had big eyes too, but his pupils were entirely black, with no color at all. During the encounter, she wore an intricately detailed black dress. Initially, I thought it was a medieval style. I found someone who had a similar experience in a book I mentioned earlier, Apparitions of Mary by Ingo, specifically around page 30. In fact, while taking history lessons as an adult, since I had a limited education before, I have been using my education to approach this experience from a more informed perspective instead of waiting for someone else to tell me what it means or possibly hide its significance, if any. In these history lessons, I discovered a figure known as the snake goddess from 1200 BCE in Crete. I found this very interesting, particularly the design of her dress, which seemed similar to one I had seen before. This resemblance made me wonder if it could be an older version of the dress. It raises the question of whether I should pay more attention to the smaller details, as they might lead to further insights. She also created a black triangle camouflage over her eyes. I recall seeing 3 of them move across her face from left to right. As they flew, both of them spun left, creating a loop of light that then curved downward before shooting upward into the sky, leaving a light trail behind them. She was not wearing any jewelry or shoes, and her feet already had camouflage on the tips of her toes. The serpent did not change, but I get the feeling he could speak as well. I want to acknowledge my bias regarding this topic. I am invested in it because I believe it holds significant value in demonstrating that there is much more in the world to consider. Perhaps a shift in perspective is in order. However, I cannot be completely sure without external comparisons. This is happening both physically and mentally for me, creating an attachment that I need to navigate carefully. I want to ensure I ask the right questions and don't overlook anything. While I may appear to have reasoning in my writing, I recognize that this is still a process that requires practice and correction. Therefore, seeking a second opinion and analysis is essential to validate my questions, answers, and any conclusions that may emerge. So now we are all clear there is an egotistic side of myself that could create a bias when analyzing my own experiences. Brass tacks. I am examining older texts to uncover the connections between symbolism, gods, and goddesses. The purpose is to explore these relationships. My findings suggest that the main goddess and gods are all manifestations of a singular divine essence, known by various names across different cultures and time periods. I have listed a lot of this, and some are aware of the connections, so I can skip this explanation until asked. The purpose of contacting individuals is to allow them to inform you of their presence. Not everyone needs a message about the end of the world or urgent actions. Some simply want you to remember that the spiritual world and your family are watching and waiting for you. They refer to these individuals as priests, sages, shamans, elders, seers, prophets, sadhus, and saints. Their purpose is always the same: to promote a moral and ethical lifestyle. These principles are intended to help you stay in touch with nature and foster empathy for both living and non-living things. Are the spiritual realms real? The answer is yes. There's no need for maybe or we need more proof. There is a spirit world. The real question is whether we can use the mechanics behind it to understand ourselves better and improve our world, or if this knowledge is too troubling for us to accept. I am unsure how others might feel, but I can assume it will be difficult for many to come to terms with this. This is likely why quantum physics is studying these matters in order to provide a reasonable explanation to the public in due time. What is my purpose? I've been asked this a lot lately. Initially, I said I wasn't sure, but the truth is that I want to separate my ego and biases from thought and reality. My goal is to gather as many related facts as possible to compare them and uncover the overall message that we may be overlooking. I don't believe this is just a game of peekaboo. I have many theories, and if you've made it this far, I might share a glimpse into Pan's labyrinth with you. My purpose was to show him who I am, and that I have been experiencing similar effects, and I would love to talk about it. It has been over 3 years, and I still haven't made a friend of him yet. I'm not sure why this is the case. Honestly, I'm slightly bothered by it, as I expected a bit of excitement. It would seem we are each other's backup. On the night of April 18, 2020, I messaged Mr. Blestas after something happened to me. I can show you the message since I have a habit of deleting information after I share it. If it's not received well, I delete it and move on. It's just good practice. However, in this case, maybe I should have kept it. I messaged him saying, "I think I got your visit this evening. I just saw a fairy and a dragon." He replied, "That's good," or something like that, and I felt he wasn't believing me. But that was the extra proof I wanted to tell and show him. One of my purposes is to support him, but he doesn't need or want any backup since he has movie deals and people surrounding him. He also seems to assume I'm bad. I try to be open and honest about myself as a matter of good practice. What have I learned? I learned that there is more to nature and the world around us. I witnessed beings taking form, and after that, there were other events that felt like dreamlike states. At one point, a physical being touched my right cheek, waking me up while I slept. My exact thought at that moment was that I was being recalled. I will also be analyzing that aspect, particularly the word recall. I have learned that temptation and disturbing thoughts can distract a person and affect their mental state, leading to substance use and behavioral issues. I have experienced all of this myself. Why does this happen? Is it a test or an effect? Is it simply revealing the darkest parts of our minds to heal first? Ideas exist both inside and outside of our minds, so could this be their purpose when leaving an aftereffect like this? I have come to believe that the goddess and gods are real, and I am thankful for their presence in my life. You may not share these beliefs, and that's perfectly fine. Science will confirm similar findings, which can serve as a point of compromise. I have analyzed why one might see a bull while I see a serpent. This exploration will require numerous citations in the future to help others find factual references. They can transform into light or any other form. If you see their natural form, that is the true treat. So their best fit in terms of appearance seems to feel factual. Question: can someone be fooled into thinking this is only advanced tech sent to trick us, or has it already misled humanity? Is this a possibility? Are there any indications of such attitudes? None from my point of view. What is my purpose? See page 107 of the Book of Coniacounus for one question to add to list. Redone Roger. This is one I will not be placing here, and for fair warning, which I should have done prior, there is stuff I'm not sharing in my beliefs or findings yet. These theories are for later. What might be their purpose? To inform and help guide humanity from what's considered the animal state. What do they need from us? Nothing. Is there anything we may be misunderstanding or misinterpreting? Yes. Is it possible that they have already tricked the world, and because of these deep beliefs, we may be confused or biased in my findings? Or are we overthinking what we can barely understand to be possible? Can a human also turn to light? Some books mention stories of ascension, often associated with light. For example, Doctor from the Monroe Institute claims he saw a beam of light shoot upwards while he was lying in his house. Other books, like Rainbow Body, compare the resurrection to Buddhist practices, which I also find similar. Lastly, there was an encounter with a person whose name I don't recall. They turned into light and traveled a couple hundred meters at a ranch in the USA. This was noted in a book whose name I forget. It was a recommended one the group I was once invited to was given. My opinions were again too strong for a crowd that had already decided, which is fine. I was in a hyper state, and if this is me in a more relaxed state, you can imagine how fast my head was moving trying to look for a meteor when there isn't one for topics like this. Mentor when there isn't one for topics like this. Have I already done this before unknowingly? Likely. How does one learn to see reality in its entirety? The human eye is apparently programmed not to see fully, it has apparent limited vision. I can only see fast movers for a second or two before I lose them. IR allows me to keep up. I'm sure some are also fast enough to keep up. What is the significance of keywords? They allow a third-party, unbiased individual to identify and analyze any words for deeper meaning, or possibly allowing other information to be relayed. I.e., the desire to go home. Identifying them as friends and family, and other words like triangle. Am I looking for attention from these events? If so, why would I? I don't believe so, I don't want a lot of people knowing about me, and they have nothing to offer me. I have everything I want and I already know there is more to the world, so, no, I am not. Can I stop thinking about these events? Not sure. Why am I thinking about these events so thoroughly? What is there to gain? I am unsure. I can't help but feel I am missing something. To gain maybe an answer and a new question. What is the significance of these events? I am not too sure, but in history they have led to what's known as the hero's story. The events follow as such, encounters are spiritual initiations, and then they lead to that person's own hero story, in which they typically make it at some point, as doing nothing will only push a new event later down the road, and not follow through with the first set of options. Will I ever be the same? Not a chance. Is there a team I could work with to train and learn from in order to complete my lifestyle and improve myself to an optimal level? Not sure. What is her name, the lady I saw? Not sure. I tried identifying at first with history books, and I don't feel that's correct to do so. It can't be accurate. I'm not sure if I know her name. The first name I learned was Sophia, the second was Minerva. There was many years apart for this identifying, so I don't feel I wish to claim a name I'm unsure of. How do I feel these things and then know them to be true? Not sure. How do I prove and disprove these? Not sure. In Christian angelology, seraphim are considered the highest ranking celestial beings within the hierarchy of angels. It is important to note this species is seen as a serpent or dragon, also called a flying serpent or javelin. So the bad one within the old text was just one of these beings from that species, so the dragon and the serpent do not mean bad or devil, but rather guards and keepers of knowledge. In artistic representations, 4-winged cherubim are often painted blue to symbolize the sky, while 6-winged seraphim are depicted in red to symbolize fire. The term demon is derived from the Greek word daimon, which means a supernatural being, or spirit. The term originally meant a spiritual being that influenced a person's character. An agathos daimon, good spirit, for example, was benevolent in its relationship to humans. The Greek philosopher Socrates, for example, spoke of his daimon as a spirit that inspired him to seek and speak the truth. At one point, the Bible mentions a female deity whom they call wisdom. Get wisdom at any cost. For then he taught me, and he said to me, take hold of my words with all your heart, keep my commands, and you will live. 5. Get wisdom, get understanding, do not forget my words or turn away from them. 6. Do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you, love her, and she will watch over you. 7. The beginning of wisdom is this, get a wisdom. Though it cost all you have, b. Get understanding. 8. Cherish her, and she will exalt you, embrace her, and she will honor you. 9. She will give you a garland to grace your head, and present you with a glorious crown. Wisdom of Solomon 9:10. New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition. 10. Send her forth from the holy heavens, and from the throne of your glory send her, that she may labor at my side, and that I may learn what is pleasing to you. Wisdom of Solomon 8. New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition. 8. She reaches mightily from one end of the earth to the other, and she orders all things well. The nature of wisdom. There is in her a spirit that is intelligent, holy, unique, manifold, subtle, agile, clear, unpolluted, distinct, invulnerable, loving the good, keen, 23 irresistible, beneficent, humane, steadfast, sure, free from anxiety, all-powerful, overseeing all, and penetrating through all spirits that are intelligent, pure, and altogether subtle. What day is Easter supposed to be on every year?
The simple standard definition of Easter is that it is the first Sunday after the full moon that occurs on or after the spring equinox. If the full moon falls on a Sunday, then Easter is the next Sunday. Easter falls on the first Sunday after the Paschal full moon. The date of Easter is determined by the Paschal full moon, the first full moon that occurs on or after March 21 SD, Mar 14, 2025.
The Easter octave begins on Easter Sunday and ends on the following Sunday, known as Divine Mercy Sunday. Each day of the octave is treated liturgically as a continuation of Easter Sunday itself, like one long, joyful feast. It's a time to reflect on the mystery of the resurrection and its transformative power in the lives of believers. Easter Monday, the second day of the octave, April 18, 2022. Easter Monday is often called the Day of the Angel, referencing the angel who announced Jesus' resurrection to the women at the tomb. Mission and courage, Jesus tells them to go and share the news. Easter Monday invites believers to become messengers of hope. Easter Monday isn't just a day off, it's a spiritual launch pad. Easter Monday is also regarded as the Day of the Angel, as the Italian publication The Daily Compass states. St. John Paul II said in his April 1, 1991, Regina Coeli, that delivering the good news of the Lord's resurrection required a superior being. For the first uttering of the words "He is risen," the resurrection, a human subject was not enough, human words were not adequate, he said, according to the Daily Compass. It took a superior being, because for the human being this truth, and the words that communicate the truth, He is risen, this truth itself is so shocking, so incredible, that perhaps no one would have dared pronounce it. Phenomenology is a powerful research approach that seeks to understand the essence of lived experiences across multiple individuals, making it especially valuable in psychology and consciousness studies. Rather than focusing on external behaviors or generalized data, phenomenology dives into the subjective, first-person perspective, how people actually experience a phenomenon in their own minds and emotions. This method allows researchers to uncover rich, nuanced insights into how individuals make sense of complex or extraordinary events, such as trauma, spiritual awakenings, or encounters with the unknown. By identifying shared themes and patterns across different personal accounts, phenomenology helps reveal the core structures of human experience, offering a deeper understanding of motivations, beliefs, and emotional responses. It also challenges conventional assumptions by emphasizing meaning-making and intentionality, showing how consciousness is always directed towards something and shaped by context. In psychological research, this approach is especially useful for exploring areas that are deeply personal and existential, such as identity, grief, transformation, or anomalous experiences, making it a vital tool for studying UAP contacts and other experiences whose realities defy easy categorization. Phenomenology, as a qualitative research approach, offers profound benefits when studying the essence of lived experiences across multiple individuals. By focusing on how people perceive and make sense of events, it provides a holistic and deeply human understanding of phenomena that goes beyond surface-level observations. This method is especially valuable in complex or emotionally charged contexts, like UAP encounters, where subjective experience is central. Phenomenology allows researchers to uncover rich, nuanced insights into motivations, beliefs, and emotional responses, helping to illuminate how individuals construct meaning from extraordinary or ambiguous experiences. It also challenges conventional assumptions by emphasizing first-person perspectives, making it ideal for exploring phenomena that are often marginalized or misunderstood. Ultimately, phenomenology helps restore the authentic voice of the experiencer, offering a powerful tool for understanding the psychological and existential impact of unusual events. Systems. Drake/Centurion. Communication is the transfer and understanding of a message between two or more people. Communicating is more than merely saying something, the meaning of what was said must also be understood. Exhibit 7:1 depicts this communication process. The key parts of this model are 1. The sender, 2. Encoding, 3. The message, 4. The channel, 5. Decoding, 6. The receiver, 7. Noise, and 8. Feedback. The sender initiates a message by encoding a thought. The message is the actual physical product of the sender's encoding. When we speak, the speech is the message. When we write, the writing is the message. When we gesture, the movements of our arms and the expressions on our faces are the message. The channel is the medium through which the message travels. The sender selects it, determining whether to use a formal or informal channel. Formal channels are established by the organization and transmit messages related to the professional activities of members. They traditionally follow the authority chain within the organization. Other forms of messages, such as personal or social messages, follow informal channels, which are spontaneous and subject to individual choice. Point for the receiver is the persons to whom the message is directed, who must first translate the symbols into understandable form. This step is the decoding of the message. Noise represents communication barriers that distort the clarity of the message, such as perceptual problems, information overload, semantic difficulties, or cultural differences. The final link in the communication process is a feedback loop. Feedback is the check on how successful we have been in transferring our messages as originally intended. It determines whether understanding has been achieved.
Il libro dei Giubilei dice che dopo il diluvio l'età dell'uomo ha cominciato a diminuire e dice che gli uomini dopo cominciarono a essere danneggiati dalle malattie e dalla cattiveria con cui vivevano. E il processo degenerativo continuerà finché non sorgerà una generazione nuova, cioè un gruppo nuovo che sarebbe quello a cui apparteneva l'autore o gli autori, cioè gli Esseni, che invece si rifacevano alla tradizione pura. Però questo anche va in contrasto con quanto detto ad esempio in un Midrash, dove sono raccolti alcuni concetti interessanti proprio in relazione a questa degenerazione che avrebbe interessato l'umanità, ma che in un certo qual modo avrebbe preservato quella che doveva essere la stirpe pura, quella che derivava dalla volontà di Dio, dalla unione di Dio, che si era creato un popolo a parte, un popolo riservato a se stesso, quello che sarebbe poi divenuto il popolo di Israele. Sentite cosa dice il Midrash Bereshit Rabbah 90.